This is our home for the next week. There are plenty of excursions, and it's just a question of deciding which one. Right, here we are standing in the queue, ready to go on the Victoria tour. Although all the coach tours operate from the centre of town, the shuttle bus picks us up from our hotel for free. About an hour and a half later, we arrive at the ferry terminal at Silverson, near to the Canadian-US border. Our coach driver gives us the lowdown on the facilities available on board the ship.
Shop, a couple of video arcades, stuff like that. That's deck 5, your main sort of services deck. One deck up, deck 6, you can go outside. And you'll have to do that if you want to have a cigarette.
We're on the ferry called Spirit of British Columbia on our way to Victoria, and we've still got about an hour to go.
When we arrive, our first stop will be the Butchart Gardens. Robert Butchart arrived at Todd Inlet in 1902 and started a branch of the family's cement business in 1904. His wife Jenny took to estate gardening with vigour. As the gardens expanded, so did their reputation. Each year nearly 1 million people flocked to the grounds. The Empress Hotel in Victoria is quite possibly the finest place for tea in all of British Columbia. Like the mainland, Vancouver Island was home to First Nation people for thousands of years. It came under British rule by the Hudson Bay Company with the building of Fort Victoria on the southern tip of the island in 1843. Later, Britain leased the island to Hudson Bay with the stipulation that the company established an English colony there. Captain Cook sailed with George Vancouver to these parts, and a statue of George Vancouver sits proud on top of the government building. Designed by Francis Rattenbury, the Parliament building was opened on February the 10th, 1898. Here we see the exquisite octagonal memorial rotunda with its ring of Tennessee marble. The legislative chamber is closed by a brass rail known as the Bar of the House. The chamber follows the Westminster style of Parliament. After about 2.5 hours in Victoria, it's time to return to Swartz Bay and catch the ferry back to Vancouver. First Nations people have lived in British Columbia for as long as 8,000 years. The European invasion of British settlers and traders in the 1800s brought with them smallpox, alcoholism and other diseases. Thousands of Aboriginals died. The Europeans with their own religions were intolerant and forced through laws and acts crippling the First Nation culture. Today the First Nation traditions are being recognised as magnificent reflections of civilization. Their art is sought by collectors throughout the world and their culture has gained great respect.
How are you? Excellent. And these are your tickets right here.
Yep.
We're off travelling again to make the most of our time.
We're on board the ferry called Britannia, and we're on our way to Squamish.
We travel up Lions Bay under Lionsgate Bridge to Howe Sound. We transfer from boat to coach and arrive at Shannon Falls a few minutes later.
We're in Whistler today, one of the top ski resorts of North America. We were hoping to go up on the gondola, but it's not running until the 30th of June.
Now back on the coach to the rail station.
Well, we just boarded the BC Rail train back to Vancouver. It's about 6:30 in the evening and it's very wet outside.
Would you like chicken or salmon for dinner?
Oh, salmon, please. What would you like?
Salmon, please. Fish for the both of you?
Yes, that's right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next outing is to downtown Vancouver. There is a public transport strike, but the excellent driverless SkyTrain still operates and whisks us to downtown. We make our way to Gastown. The first mill was built close to here. In 1867, John Dayton arrived and convinced the settlers to build a saloon. He was nicknamed Gassy Jack. We stay for a bit of jazz before heading on. We visit the harbour centre, take the lift to the top for the magnificent view.
Today we're at Main Street where Science World is and the home of the giant OmniMax Theatre. Behind me is North Shore Mountains.
We head back to False Creek, near to our hotel. We are never far from open spaces. The tributary False Creek, originally the lifeblood for Squamish natives, is now a model of urban renewal. Granville Bridge leads to Granville Island Market, or you can take a ferry boat across. Just time to sample Stanley Park Aquarium before our fly and dine evening excursion. Harbour and West Coast Air is another essential commuting service. We're just about to catch a seaplane for our Snug Cove Fly and Dine.
And then I'll get one of you two going.
A quick photo opportunity, a chat to fellow travellers,
Northern New York State Watertown, because we've got some friends there.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
safety checks, 5 minutes flying time. After a sumptuous meal, we take the 20-minute ferry ride back to the mainland. We arrive in San Francisco for a couple of days and spend most of the time at Fishermans Wharf before returning to the UK.